Now that you have learned how to write both the general and the specific objectives, let us now focus on the types of research questions that can be classified in your specific objectives. So we have two classifications of research questions that can be, let's say, observed in your specific objectives. We have descriptive and inferential. So let's try to analyze the following example. So we have here these three research questions. Okay, we have to identify the chemical components, to compare the effectiveness, and to test the significant difference. Okay, so among these three research questions, can you identify which are the descriptive ones? Can you identify which is the inferential ones? Okay, so let's try to reveal the classifications of such research questions. So the first two specific objectives are considered to be the descriptive research questions, while the third specific objective is considered to be the inferential one. Okay, so what is the difference between the two? Okay, how can we, let's say, distinguish the descriptive objective or the descriptive research questions from the inferential research questions? So let's try to discuss first the descriptive research questions. So class, let us try to analyze the highlighted phrases. We have to identify the chemical components and we have to compare the effectiveness of mabol fruit. So class, if you were to be asked, is it possible that you can give such responses to these questions regarding the specific variable? Okay, so analyze that we have here specific variables. So what are those? We have chemical components and we have effectiveness of a ball of fruit. So can we, let's say, give such answers so that we can describe these specific variables? Okay, so let's try to narrow down some examples. For the first research question, we can give responses to such objective by enumerating the different chemical components present in our independent variable. So we have tannins, saponins, triterpenes, phenols, glycerol, and flavonoids. Okay, next. For us to describe the effectiveness of mabol fruit, we can give such responses by means of interpretations to describe the effectiveness. And what are those interpretations? We have highly effective, moderately effective, not effective, and no effect at all. So class, what can you say? Did we provide such responses to the specific variables? Okay, did we describe such answers to these questions? So obviously class, we provided such answers for each specific variables so that we can describe the variables. Okay, so that is one of the characteristics of descriptive research questions. The descriptive research questions ask responses for the given study about each specific variable that will give description to it. Okay, the answers that shall be given should give description to the specific variables present in the objective. Okay, so that is one characteristic of descriptive research question. So let us try to analyze further. Okay, now we have here the descriptions. Okay, for the variables chemical components and description for the effectiveness. Okay, if you were to be asked class, can we give further responses for each description? Okay, can we provide, let's say, more answers to each description? Okay, so let's try to narrow down some possible answers or some possible responses. So for the chemical components, we have these symbols. We have plus, so plus means abundant. Okay, double plus means moderately abundant, and triple plus means highly abundant. And then we also have a minus sign, meaning to say there is no trace at all, or let's say less abundance of the chemical component in the said plant material. Okay, so these levels of abundance class can come in a form of percentage, or let's say frequency. Okay, Now, for the effectiveness class, okay, we can say that it is highly effective if factor A is 60 seconds and if factor B is 40 seconds. We can say that it is moderately effective if factor A is 50 seconds and factor B is 30 seconds. We can say that it is not effective if factor A is 30 seconds and factor B is 20 seconds. And we can say that the product has no effect at all if factor A is 0 to 10 seconds and factor B is 0 to 5 seconds. Okay, so class, where do you think these values come from? Okay, where do you think these values come from? So these values are actually derived from our measurable variables. Okay, so factor A being flammability and factor B being volatility. So class, what did you observe with our example? Can we say that we can quantify or give numerical values to our responses? So these class, we have here descriptive responses. And can we say that this descriptive responses can have more quantitative values? Okay, so obviously class, the answer is yes. We can give such values to our descriptive responses. Therefore class, a descriptive research question can quantify or give numerical values to the descriptive responses for each specific variable. Okay, and take note class, okay, that these values that we use to describe the descriptive responses actually uses descriptive statistical treatments. Okay? These values that describe our descriptive responses actually uses descriptive statistical treatments. So what are exactly the examples of our descriptive statistical treatments? Okay, so the responses for each specific variable can be quantified and analyzed with the use of the following. So we can quantify it using the measures of central tendency, the mean, median, and mode, the measures of position, percentile, quartile, decile, measures of variability, we have variance and standard deviation, we have percentages, and we have frequency. So these are examples of descriptive statistical treatments that can be used so that we can further quantify our descriptive responses. Okay? And if these descriptive responses can give off such values, okay, therefore class, the answers for the descriptive research questions will be used for us to give answers to the inferential research questions. Okay, meaning to say class, the answers we obtained with the use of the descriptive research questions shall also be used for us to give answers to the inferential research questions. And because it will provide basis, okay, because that the descriptive research questions will provide basis for us to answer the inferential research questions, it only means that, okay, the descriptive research question must be written first before the inferential research questions. So as you can observe here, class, our descriptive research questions comes first before the inferential research questions. Okay? So that is another characteristic of our descriptive research question. It must come first before the inferential research questions. Okay? And take note class again of the indications, okay, of the descriptive research questions. We have to identify and to compare. Okay, so meaning to say class, our descriptive research questions are indicated by the following indicators. We have to determine, to compare, to find out, and to identify. So, if your specific objectives starts with to determine, to compare, to find out, to identify, to ascertain, okay? Meaning to say that such specific objectives you are writing are examples of descriptive research questions. Okay, so this will wrap our discussion regarding the descriptive research questions. So for our next video presentation, we will be narrowing down the characteristics of the inferential research questions.